Welcome back to Jesse López vlog. I'm Jesse López, and in today's episode, we're talking about the government shutdown almost happened, and people were generally terrified. But why? What would it have meant for me, for my coworkers, for my colleagues, for my friends, and people like you? So today I'm going to break down why it's more than just a political issue. It affects people's real lives. But before we do that, make sure that you subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Hit the like button, share with a friend, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future episodes. So we'll start it off with a little bit about me. I'm a civilian living here in Germany under the Status of Forces Agreement. I am a combat veteran. I did serve here, stationed in Germany, although most of the time I was in the war. I came back, ended up getting married, having children, and this is my new home in Germany. I accepted a job here in Germany under the Status of Forces Agreement, and in case those of you that don't know what that means, it allows me to stay here as a tourist for a minimum of up to 3 years, can get extended to 5 years, sometimes up to 9 years to live in Germany, and then either go back to the States or you have no more job and then you have to find another way to stay here in Germany, working at a U.S. Army garrison army base. I happen to work at USAC Bavaria, the largest army base in all of Europe, the largest training command center in all of Europe. And, you know, the Army has been very good to me, has provided so much security for myself and for my family. And that's just a little bit of who I am. I've talked to my coworkers. Some of them are living paycheck to paycheck. And some of them are military spouses. So they live either on base or off base. Their spouse is a military member. And some of my colleagues and my coworkers and friends, they have married, just like me, to a host nation citizen, but they work here on base. And let me know in the comments here below, were you affected, or were you about to get affected, or have you been affected in the past by a government shutdown? Okay, so for those of you that may not know what a government shutdown is, I got the explanation here. It's basically when a government shuts down, it happens when Congress doesn't approve a funding, it doesn't pass a funding bill. Without the funding, non-essential services and government employees, even those on military bases, are affected. I'm not a soldier, but the impact of a shutdown on my job can be very significant. Who is affected? So the focus on federal workers includes military members, civilian contractors, and civilian employees, maybe like you, and for sure like me. Local businesses are impacted. So all the services, all the agencies that provide services to our military members are affected. Either they're going to be totally closed, or some other people are going to have to step up. In my case here, stationed in Germany, we work with host nation employees. The host nation employees would now have to step up and provide those same services to all the soldiers that are stationed here at the military base. Contractors as well, vendors, they might be impacted. But basically, the majority of civilians that are federal workers would be impacted. Number 3 here, why people were afraid of a shutdown? Very simple. So let's talk about a furlough situation. If a shutdown had happened, my job would have gone from normal hours to furlough status, meaning I would have to shown up. Let's say it didn't pass last week or on Friday. Then I would have shown up on Monday, had to sign some papers, and would have gone on a furlough status, meaning I would not be allowed to be at work. I would have to either go home or go about my business, in many cases without being paid. All of us would also have no clue of when we would need to report back to work, and only when the funding bill finally passes, obviously. I did have some workers and some colleagues and some friends that mentioned the uncertainty of living paycheck to paycheck. They could have made it, for the next paycheck, the next 2-week paycheck. But after that, times would have got tough for many of these people that are relying on a paycheck to live here in Germany. A lot of people don't know, but as civilians, the majority of us, we don't get paid housing like military members. We live paycheck to paycheck, and we use that to support our families, to pay the rent, to pay the electricity, utilities, food, rent, all that stuff. Some of us would have had to make some really tough decisions. Living here in Germany is not an easy thing. As an American, as a tourist, even if you're a veteran, the German government is not responsible for you. There are very limited services of what you can ask. You'd have to depend on your spouse if you're married to one, or if you're on your own, like many of my friends and coworkers, you would have had to make ends meet somehow, either talking to the bank or talking to your landlord to give you a little bit more time till the furlough ended to make the rent, to be able to pay. The anxiety as well. So much stress for the furlough of not knowing when's it all going to end? When can I go back to work? So it was about to get real. It was really about to get real. The struggle was already there for people that are living paycheck to paycheck, and that's kind of like a really sad thing. And maybe it's a wake-up call for a lot of us to stop living paycheck to paycheck. This is just temporary, the continuing resolution. The next 6 months, it's going to happen again. They're going to go vote. And if they can't agree, it could be we go into another furlough. Maybe it's time for some of us. You've seen some of my videos where I talk about how much we're spending every day when we go to lunch. $11 per day at lunch, when we could easily start learning how to cook some meals, fresh, even healthier, save some money just in case this happens again. And we do go into furlough. A lot of my coworkers that are working here, if they're not a spouse, they're all veterans. Veterans are going through just mental situations. Some of them suffer from PTSD, and it's a financial crisis for a lot of them. And as civilians, we don't have the priority as the active service members. Okay, we're always towards the bottom of limited services that are available for us. Some of my coworkers have kids or dependents. When you're unsure about your paycheck, you can't help but feel anxious about how long this will last. So here's some practical examples that I took some notes on. So military spouse's perspective could be, imagine being a military spouse with children. You rely on both incomes to make ends meet. Yeah, sure. The Army provides a roof over your head and pays, for a lot of your utilities. But who's paying for the childcare? That comes out of your pocket, depending on the rank of your spouse, of the service member. A furlough puts a serious strain on their household, adding another layer of stress to an already difficult lifestyle. It's not easy being the spouse of a service member. It's not easy being the child of a service member. It's not easy raising kids when mom or dad are training, or they come home at crazy hours, or they might be in the field, or some of us that are, some of them that are deployed. It's not an easy lifestyle. And then on top of that, knowing that you can't go to work, and knowing that your your spouse, the military member, has to go to work and is not getting paid. The host nation perspective, for those of us married to locals, is not just about the U.S. government. It impacts life in Germany. The bills, the mortgage, everything gets complicated when you're being furloughed. You put a big responsibility on the other spouse now. And hopefully that spouse is working. And now you're depending on the government to provide, you know, money and services for your spouse. But just because you're married doesn't guarantee that they're going to give a little bit more money because you're American and married. They're only going to cover 9 times out of 10 the host nation citizen. So I took some notes over here on my laptop. Number 5, what's really at stake in a government shutdown? Political gridlock. So I'm not political, but here's some notes. A shutdown is a result of political gridlock. When Congress can't agree on a funding plan, the rest of us are left in the dark, unsure of what's going to happen next. We elect all these officials that make really, really good money and bonuses. I can't remember the last time that I got a bonus, but I can tell you all these officials, they get bonuses. They get paid really, really good to make decisions, and it's just sad that this happens every single year and they can't agree. They can't make this happen. It's really, really sad. As a civilian, it's a stark reminder of how politics affect real lives. During the shutdown, they would have got paid, but we wouldn't have. Let that sink in. The people we elect that can't make decisions, that can't get along, would have got paid, while people like me, like you and me, and the soldiers that are defending our country would not get paid. That is sad. Global impact is my next point here. So even though I'm in Germany, the U.S. government is very, very critical to global security, economy, and diplomacy. A shutdown sends ripples beyond U.S. borders, affecting foreign relations and even international trade. Have you seen what's been going on lately with all the tariffs and the retaliation that's happening? Have you seen what it's been doing to the stock market? How are we supposed to be investing if we don't know the future? For people working overseas or with local spouses, this becomes a global issue too. It's not just about whether you can make rent in Germany, it's about the larger consequences. Look at the government. Not to go off topic, but many times when I was looking for help as a civilian, as a veteran, for mental health, like I mentioned earlier, I don't have that priority to be seen, so I have to go off base. My German is limited, and I know enough, and sometimes I'll take my spouse with me, but they're always asking me, the doctors are always asking me, why doesn't the military take care of their veterans? And it's something that I could never answer, except that you're only good when you're active, but you're not that good anymore when you leave the Army. And I'm just so thankful that at least there's now some priority for spouses and for veterans to be able to have priority when applying for jobs overseas. So at least they got that right. Number 6 here, how an averted shutdown affects us now. So the relief is there. It's great. We all go back to normal now for another 6 months because it's just short term. Luckily, the shutdown was averted this time, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. Sure, it's a relief, but uncertainty still looms. It looms over our government workers like myself. As we know, this could happen again in the future. And believe me, it's going to happen again. We'll be back on in September. We're going to be doing this all over again. This is why I felt the responsibility to share my thoughts with you, and hopefully you can share your thoughts as well. It's time that we stand up as citizens and say enough is enough. Start doing your job. We're expected to go to work every day, get along with people. And there's a saying in the Army, mission first, people always. I'm asking you to do the same as well. The political reality is that these budget crises aren't new. And even though we've avoided a shutdown now, the reality of political instability still affects our job security and our future. We may have avoided disaster today, but will it happen again in the next 6 months? The impact on my coworkers. I've talked to many of them, and there's still anxiety about the future. Everyone knows that just because it's averted now doesn't mean that it's over. Closing thoughts and call to action. The fear of a government shutdown is not just about the political drama in Washington, D.C. It's about real people, real families, and real lives that get disrupted. I've shared my perspective, but I know many of you have felt it too. Please comment below of how it's affected you, or how it has affected you in the past, or how it could have affected you. My call to action. Have you ever faced a furlough or worked through a government shutdown? What was that like? It sucked, didn't it? Were you paid? Did you not get paid? Did you have to do all the work that everyone else normally would do? You had to work, basically. What I'm trying to say is you were doing the job of 10 people even though they were out because you were the essential one that had to stay in. How did it affect your family or your work? Oh man, my stomach. I'm getting hungry. With that being said, I totally forgot to turn on that light over there. And hopefully it's not too dark, but we're going to roll with it because the story is more important than being perfect. I encourage you to like and subscribe this video. I'm going to continue sharing my personal insights into life on base, military life, and the impact of politics on everyday life. And I hope other creators out there and influencers will do the same thing too. Next time, as always, I'm looking forward to making another video here for you. Hit the like button, share with a friend. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification bell because you never know when I'm going to post again. Other than that, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.